My name is Ruby, and I'm a 35-year-old widow living in New York City. I run a successful interior design firm known for its luxurious and innovative designs. After losing my husband 3 years ago, I've managed to secure a life of comfort and success, but the void in my heart was palpable. I stand at 5 feet 7 inches with a toned, fit body. I've always been meticulous about my health, hitting the gym regularly, which keeps me at a lean 130 pounds. It was on a typical Wednesday afternoon when I had my routine medical checkup. Dr. Michael, a 35-year-old physician with captivating green eyes and a smile that could melt the coldest of hearts, had been my doctor for a couple of years now. But today, something felt different. As I sat in his office discussing my health, my mind began to wander. His touch was professional yet warm during the examination, his voice calm and reassuring. I caught myself imagining his hands exploring more than just my pulse. I blushed at these thoughts, hoping my cheeks didn't give me away. I've always taken pride in my physique, knowing how much effort I put into maintaining it through diet and exercise, yet here I was, feeling a different kind of vulnerability. After the checkup, as he was writing notes, I found myself blurting out, "Doctor, Michael, do you ever feel..." I paused, my heart racing, but then I decided to continue. "Like there's more to life than just routine?" He looked up, a bit surprised, but his eyes held a spark of curiosity. "What do you mean, Ruby?" "I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions," I admitted, my voice softer than intended. "And coming here, seeing you, it's the highlight of my week." His pen paused. "I appreciate that, Ruby. I enjoy our appointments too." From that moment, my visits to Dr. Michael became more than just medical checkups. I started scheduling them weekly, using excuses like minor aches or the need to discuss my exercise regimen. Each visit, I dressed a bit more carefully, my outfits subtly accentuating my figure, the result of my dedication to fitness. Every time I entered his office, my heart would skip a beat. We talked about more than just health. We discussed art, books, and even shared laughs over silly TV shows. His hands, during examinations, felt less like a doctor's and more like those of a man I was growing fond of. I noticed his gaze lingering a bit longer, his smiles a bit wider. One evening, as autumn began to paint the city with its hues, I found myself alone with him after the last patient had left. The sun was setting, casting a golden light through the windows of his office. I was there for what I claimed was a pain in my shoulder, but really, I just wanted to see him. "Ruby, you seem to be in better shape than most of my patients," he remarked, his voice carrying a hint of playfulness as he gently massaged my supposedly sore shoulder. "I take good care of myself," I replied, turning to catch his eyes, "but sometimes I think I might need more personal attention." The air between us crackled with tension. He hesitated for a moment. Then, with a subtle nod, he leaned in. Our lips met in a kiss that was both unexpected and yet so right. The kiss deepened, and before we knew it, we were exploring each other with a passion that had been building over weeks of unspoken desire. The doctor's office, usually a place of professionalism, became our secret haven. Clothes were discarded, and we indulged in each other on his desk, the coolness of the metal contrasting with the heat of our bodies. It was reckless, but it felt liberating, like breaking free from the chains of our daily lives. Afterward, as we lay there catching our breath, I knew this wouldn't be the last time. My visits to Dr. Michael had taken on a new meaning, one that filled the void in my life with excitement and a touch of forbidden romance. After that first passionate encounter, the dynamics of our relationship shifted dramatically. My weekly visits to Dr. Michael's office became eagerly anticipated events, not just for health, but for the thrill of our secret rendezvous. Each appointment was an adventure into the unknown, a dance of desire and professionalism. The following week, I wore a sleek, form-fitting dress that highlighted my toned body, the result of countless hours at the gym. As I walked into his office, I noticed his eyes take in every detail, a silent acknowledgement of my effort. "Good to see you again, Ruby," he said, his voice a mix of professionalism and something more intimate. "What brings you in today?" I feigned a slight headache, knowing well it was just an excuse to be near him. As he examined me, his touch was gentle, almost lingering. "You seem perfectly healthy," he concluded, his eyes meeting mine with a knowing look. "Can I just come to see you?" I asked, my tone playful yet laced with an invitation. He chuckled, closing the door to his office for privacy. "I suppose there's no harm in that." Our kisses grew less tentative, more desperate each time. That day, we moved from the desk to the couch, where we explored each other with a ferocity that spoke of weeks of pent-up desire. His hands, once strictly medical, now traced the lines of my body with a lover's precision. As autumn deepened into winter, our meetings became more daring. I brought him gifts, a tie that matched his eyes, a book I knew he'd love. Each gift was a layer peeled back in our clandestine affair, a tacit acknowledgement of our growing attachment. One snowy evening, the city outside was silent under a fresh blanket of snow, and his office felt like our own little world. I wore a deep red dress, its color echoing the passion we shared. "You look breathtaking," he whispered as he locked the door behind me, his hands already eager. "Michael, I've been thinking," I started, my voice hesitant. "What if we went beyond this office?" The question hung in the air, a challenge to the status quo of our relationship. He paused, his expression serious. "Ruby, I've thought about that too, but there are risks. My job, your reputation." "I know," I sighed, feeling the weight of reality. "But isn't there a part of you that wants more?" He pulled me close, his lips finding mine in an answer that was more feeling than words. "Let's just enjoy what we have now," he murmured against my skin. That night, we made love with a kind of urgency, as if acknowledging that our time could be limited. The cold outside contrasted sharply with the heat we generated within those four walls. We spoke in hushed tones about our lives, our dreams, creating a tapestry of intimacy that went beyond the physical. Months passed, and our relationship evolved into a complex dance of secrecy and connection. I'd leave his office with my heart racing, my mind replaying every kiss, every touch. Yet, with each departure, a pang of longing reminded me of the boundaries we couldn't cross. One particularly cold February afternoon, I entered his office with a sense of inevitability. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Ruby, I've been offered a position in another state," he said abruptly, his voice steady but his eyes betraying a tumult of emotions. The news hit me like a cold wave. "When?" "In a month," he replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. We didn't say much after that. Instead, we let our bodies speak, an unspoken agreement to make the most of the time we had left. The lovemaking was intense, infused with a bittersweet edge. We moved together as if trying to memorize each other's touch, each sigh, each whispered word. As we lay there afterwards, the reality of our situation settled in. "I'll miss this," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'll miss you," he responded, his hand tracing circles on my back. The weeks that followed were filled with a mix of excitement and sorrow. Each meeting was now shadowed by the looming farewell. We talked about keeping in touch, about maybe meeting up somewhere neutral, but we both knew the magic of our secret office encounters couldn't be replicated. On his last day, I came dressed in black, symbolizing the end of our affair. We didn't need words. Our bodies spoke for us, conveying everything from gratitude to grief. After, as we dressed, he handed me a small box. Inside was a delicate necklace, simple but beautiful. "Something to remember me by," he said. With a final kiss, we parted, knowing that what we had was both beautiful and ephemeral. I left his office that day, stepping into a world where the snow had melted, but a part of my heart remained frozen in those moments we shared. As I walked away, I knew I'd carry those memories, those feelings, forward, a secret chapter in my life, as rich and complicated as the designs I crafted for others. Life moved on, as it tends to do, but the echo of Dr. Michael lingered in my routines, in the quiet moments before sleep, in the way I caught myself staring at strangers with green eyes. My work became my sanctuary, pouring my emotions into designs that spoke of passion, secrecy, and the beauty of transient connections. Months after Michael left, I found myself at a charity gala, an event where my firm had donated a piece for auction. The room was alive with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the soft hum of classical music. As I mingled, discussing art and architecture, I felt a familiar gaze on me. Turning, my heart skipped. There he was, Michael, looking as striking as ever in a tailored suit. Our eyes locked, and I felt a rush of emotions, joy, surprise, and a twinge of that old, familiar desire. He approached, his smile cautious, yet warm. "Ruby, I didn't expect to see you here." "I could say the same," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. We exchanged pleasantries, but beneath the surface was a current of what we once shared. He was in town for a medical conference, he explained, and had decided to attend this event on a whim. As we talked, the crowd around us faded into a blur. "How have you been?" he asked, his tone more personal now. "Busy," I answered, "but I think about our times often." He nodded, his expression softening. "I do too. More than I thought I would." The night wore on, and we found ourselves in a quieter corner, sharing a bottle of wine. The conversation shifted from small talk to deeper subjects. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked, knowing the answer might hurt. "Never," he said firmly. "It was one of the most genuine things in my life." We laughed, reminiscing about our secret office encounters, each memory a shard of light in the dim room. The evening ended with a promise to keep in touch, but we both knew the magic of what we had was tied to that specific time and place. Back home, I placed the necklace he'd given me around my neck, feeling its weight against my skin, a tangible reminder of our hidden world. Life continued to unfold, and while I never saw Michael again, his presence was a chapter in my story, now closed but not forgotten. My heart, though healed, bore the marks of our adventure, making me appreciate the fleeting nature of passion and the quiet depth of memories. The years rolled by, each marked by new projects, new faces, and the subtle aging of time on my skin. My interior design firm grew, becoming a beacon of innovative design in New York. Yet, there was always a part of me that looked back on my time with Michael with a fond, wistful nostalgia. One summer, I decided to take a sabbatical, a break to travel, and perhaps find new inspiration for my work. My journey led me to the West Coast, where the sunsets painted the sky in colors that reminded me of the warmth we shared. In San Francisco, I found myself at an art gallery opening, drawn by the promise of seeing new perspectives. The gallery was crowded, filled with the murmur of art enthusiasts and the occasional sharp intake of breath at a particularly striking piece. As I moved through the crowd, my eyes caught on a painting that seemed to resonate with my soul. It was all about hidden desires and unspoken connections. I stood there, lost in thought, when a voice from behind me broke through my reverie. "Ruby?" I turned, and there he was, Michael, looking slightly older, his hair now streaked with silver, but his eyes still held that familiar spark. "Michael, what are you doing here?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "I live here now," he said with a smile. "I moved a couple of years ago." "And you?" "On a sabbatical, looking for inspiration," I replied, feeling the old thrill of our connection rekindle. We spent the evening together, walking through the gallery, discussing art, life, and the paths we'd taken since we last saw each other. He told me he was now head of a new medical research facility, and I shared stories of my latest architectural triumphs. There was an ease between us, a comfort that time hadn't eroded. As we stepped out into the cool San Francisco night, he suggested we grab a late dinner. Over seafood and wine, we delved deeper into our lives. I learned he was married now, with a young daughter who, he claimed with pride, had inherited his love for science. I felt a pang of something, not jealousy, but a recognition of how life moves forward. "I never forgot you, Ruby," he confessed, his gaze intense. "You were a chapter I often revisited in my mind." And I admitted, feeling the weight of our past. But life has its ways, doesn't it? It did. We spoke of the past with a sense of closure, acknowledging what we had was beautiful, but also recognizing the new chapters we were living. There was no room for regrets, only appreciation for the moments we once shared. The night ended with a walk along the bay, the bridge lit up in the distance, mirroring the light in our eyes from memories shared. We hugged, a long, warm embrace filled with the unsaid, the unspoken. "Stay in touch," I whispered, knowing this time we might just manage it. Back in New York, I returned to my work with a new vigor, inspired by the journey and the encounter. My designs began to reflect more on the ephemeral nature of life, on the beauty of connections that last just a moment or a lifetime. Years later, when I was in my 50s, I received an invitation to an art exhibition in San Francisco, curated by none other than Dr. Michael. The theme was Connections Through Time, and there, amidst the paintings and sculptures, was a piece dedicated to our story. It was abstract, but I knew it was us, the colors, the energy, the narrative of a hidden passion. I attended, and we met again, now with even more life between us. His wife was there, elegant and kind, and his daughter, now a teenager with her father's eyes. We laughed, we reminisced, and I felt a profound sense of peace. Our story was no longer just ours. It had become a piece of art, a testament to how even fleeting moments can shape a lifetime. Walking away from the gallery that day, I felt a completeness. Michael and I had woven our lives into each other's stories, not as lovers, but as pivotal chapters in our personal narratives. And as I returned to New York, I carried with me not just the memory of our past, but the inspiration for my future works. Each design a silent ode to the beauty of human connection, no matter how brief or long-lasting.